3-4. Okay, it's 7 p.m. And I call to order this meeting of the Middlebury Development Review Board for January 22nd, 2018. First thing I'll do is go over to the two business items. The first one is an application by Off the Hook LLC for final conditional use approval to rehabilitate and renovate an existing mixed-use commercial building on 24 South Washington Street, parcel 25037. The second application is by Champlain Valley Dispensary for final conditional use approval to convert and use an existing professional office building for retail dispensary of medical products. And that property is located at 1641 Route 7 South, parcel number 08113. Okay. Are there any public communications on any item not on the agenda tonight? Hearing none. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for December 12th, 2017?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there comments, changes, or corrections?
Kevin, am I operational tonight?
Yes, you are. Hearing none. All in favor of the approval of the minutes for December 11th, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
One abstention.
Who's the motion and the second on that?
It's Don and seconded by Gary.
Okay, the first business item is an application by Off the Hook LLC for conditional use approval to rehabilitate and renovate an existing mixed-use commercial building, converting the entire building to 8 residential units, apartments. Development Review Board approval for this project is required pursuant to section 540 and 747. The property is located at 24 Washington Street in the Village Residential Commercial District, parcel 25037. The following is the Drb Oath for applicants, interested persons, and those wishing to participate in this hearing. Do you affirm that the evidence and information you are giving in this proceeding is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
At this time, I would ask the board, members of the board, if any member has a conflict of interest regarding this application. Also, at this time, does any member wish to disclose any ex parte conversations concerning this case? Hearing none. Okay, would you like to present the project to us?
Sure. My name is David Schlansky, and I'm the manager of the applicant. I was here about a month ago, and we've since received some feedback, which we interpret as favorable, and we welcome it and appreciate it very much. So thank you for that. I don't have all my papers here because of the ice. I didn't get to go to my office on my way from where I was coming from. But I think it's the same materials that you had before. And we met with the Design Advisory Committee, and that was very helpful. Was advisory, and it was good advice. And I think they had a lot of good ideas that we will probably implement. We have to get out there and check on some trees and things like that, but that was very helpful. And really, met with at least one of our neighbors, and he's been very helpful and given us some guidance on some things, and we're eager to hear from you about what your thoughts are and any questions you have. We're eager to do this if it meets with your approval. And if you're wondering, I was bit by a dog over the weekend, so that's why I look like I'm a little beat up. So,
Okay, if you could, for the public's concern, could you just go up there and point to the changes that you will be making from the site, as far as the site plan goes?
sure. So, this is Washington Street, so if you're out on the street, you're looking in here. And we're, really, the primary changes would be, we would have one-way traffic, which is the way it is here. We would just reverse the traffic coming out onto Washington Street. Or, let me get that straight. Is it coming in or coming out? I don't know the answer, but it was suggested before.
It's coming in.
Coming in, okay. So,
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, and so we're also going to mark the back parking lot, which is currently what's left over after there was some type of an island out there. And we're hoping to do a bunch of landscaping.
Again, I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
I'm trying to think ahead of you, and I'm just gonna not. I'm just gonna dumb it down and wait for you to ask for something. I
Okay.
apologize,
That's okay.
everyone.
Yeah, let's do the site plan, if that's okay.
It's the site plan you want, right?
Yeah, if that's all
And then
right,
if you
yeah.
need the elevations and the floor plans, I've got
Yeah.
those kind of right behind it, but apparently I can't open them at the same time.
That's all right. You're doing
So
fine.
it's different every time.
So, yes, so again, we're reversing direction, so this will be coming in. And this has already changed a fair bit back here. And so we were asked before about whether this area will be paved, and we intend to, but I don't want to promise it because it's one of those things that you either have enough money at the end of the project or you do it in the years coming. And if you don't pave it, you end up tracking a lot of dirt and wear and tear into the units. So it's a good idea. It's just a question of how do you stand at the end of the project. But the overall building itself, what we're doing is we're doing a historic rehab. And so we're going to, there's a fairly extensive set of guidelines, really requirements of the National Park Service. And so we're going to abide those. And it's a historically listed structure. I guess from what I'm told, where the Shaw's is, there used to be an estate, and this was some type of a carriage house or something like that. In any event, it's going to be, we gave the Design Advisory Committee 2 different paint schemes. They are letting us do whichever one we like, but they're each what are called polychrome, which means there'll be 4 separate colors. There'll be a lot of finish work. It's a fairly complex way to paint, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to put a slate roof on it. The windows are not changing where the windows are, although we're allowed to put in more efficient windows. And really, that the actual, so what you probably may know is that this is sort of a utilitarian structure here, and this is the original structure. And so we're taking off this, vestibule, which is not original, and we're restoring the doors, but because they used to be sliding carriage doors, we're not restoring them to those. We're putting them back to, doors that are, I don't remember exactly how to characterize it. So with the National Park Service, you basically, where you know what it was and it's still intact, you have to restore in kind. And if there's something that you know was there, you have to restore it in the same kind. But you can't make things look in a way that's ahistoric. So if something is sort of like this structure here is not so integral to the historic look, you have to basically keep it as is, or go with something that's a little more indicative of it being modern. And so we're going to follow all their guidelines. The idea really is we're going to spend most of the money on the inside of the building, and we're trying to, with your approval, we're really trying to make it so they're really high quality, very energy efficient, small homes for people that want to walk in town. They can have a car, but if they want to walk, they can. And we think that, again, as we went through before, a lot of the guidelines that you have, many of which give you discretion, we meet them in the sense that this is an adaptive reuse of an existing building. It's not creating new development that's going out into the hinterland. It's bringing people to a walkable downtown. and is generally energy efficient and allows for aesthetic and historic adaptive reuse of buildings. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Just one question.
Yes,
Is
sir.
the state gonna require you to sprinkle that building?
Yes, sir.
You are?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an expensive thing.
Wow.
And not only that, but some of the sprinkler equipment that we have to put in is the most recent variant. which
Yeah.
has, monitoring.
I have a question about lighting.
Yes.
In the December 27th submission, it says that you don't intend to remove any of the existing exterior lights, but on page 10 of the historic preservation certification, it says the existing exterior lights will be removed and replaced.
That's a good catch, and I don't know the answer to it. I think that some of these lights, I guess maybe the way to harmonize that is that I'm not sure they're really historic. And so some of the existing lights, like these spotlights for the signage and for the public access for the building, they look to be sort of downcast spotlights. But when you get to lights like this over here, I know that's a relatively cheap, 20 or 30 year ago fixture. So my understanding is that when we go to places like that, we'll be using the lights that are as indicated to the Design Advisory Committee, and as the National Park Service tells us, have to be denoted as modern and not historic. A lot of these lights from 20 or 30 years ago, they look sort of, they're sort of painted brass, pseudo-historic.
If some of those lights don't conform to the current lighting regulations, will you be changing them on that basis?
We'll be happy to comply with any regulations that you ask us to. So I candidly, we typically get into doing a lighting schedule as we proceed further with approval. So we would either look to your guidance to tell us now, or we would come back to you for that later. But we have to intersect what you tell us and what the National Park Service tells us.
Other questions from the board?
I have. I'm just curious as to why you're gonna use slate for the roof.
When we met with a historic consultant, we thought that it probably, based on the structure of the roof, it probably had been shingle, but we were told that it had been slate. And so we probably could have gotten approval for asphalt shingle, but we decided that if they wanted slate, that we would go with that because we wanted their approval.
Yeah, because a lot of places that did historic preservation, they take the slate off and sell it and put asphalt shingles on
We would actually put new slate on, which is
Right.
kind of good backwards. And the slate's actually there now, in the back.
it. It's there?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
So I have a question for the DIC meeting that you had. Their primary landscape recommendation was screening on in the front of the building, is that right?
Well, so I may misremember, but what I recall them telling us is that these are linden trees here, and one of the gentlemen seemed to be very knowledgeable. He said that they probably won't last very long, and that we should consider replacing those with something like maples.
Right.
And that we should consider, well, frankly, we'd love to consider putting trees along here to make it a little more residential and welcoming, but we didn't know if that was possible, and they seemed to suggest it was recommended.
Right.
So that's a really good thing for us. And, this thing here, so to make this a public building, this is a handicap ramp, and so we have a handicap accessible unit in the back, and we also have, I think, 2 or 3 handicap visitable units. So we won't need this here. So we've thought about maybe pulling this out and putting some trees in here and then putting some plantings in there, keeping this as the main walkway access. And this vestibule will come off because it's ahistoric.
Would there be any way for there to be disabled access to the front units from the back if they were visitors?
So I don't know I know that the Department of Public Safety does all the work on that, and our architect has designed all the units and specified the passages and all that to make it so they're visitable. But I think that the ones that are visitable are accessible from the back. But I could be wrong.
I was just thinking that since that slope exists already, maybe you're ahead of the game in keeping it, even though having trees would be very nice, given how more and more of us are getting older and more decrepit. It might be helpful if we could see our friends who live there without as much effort.
That's a nice thought. Frankly, we're open to suggestion. I mean, I was going with their suggestion that this may be superfluous and that we thought, I mean, it would be great to put trees in here. So we can adapt.
Well, I don't believe we have any authority to tell you one way or the other about that. It was just my...
We're sitting here looking at a
thought.
landscaping plan that we approved here a few years ago for the Vermont Federal. So that's
Yeah, I was only asking because it came up in DAC, and it was,
Right.
I think I misread it. I think it was just asking, suggesting additional landscaping in front to change the character from commercial to residential. I would certainly not even propose, much less demand that a path go away, or that we get into the unit mix, which is pretty code driven. On the accessibility side.
It really does look good in the spring of the year and in the summer when it's all blossomed there. It really is not, it's not unattractive the way it is, so, it's just, why you would want to change it, that's something you'd have to decide, but.
Other questions at this time from the board? Jen, do you have any comments or questions at this point?
No, but I mean, you are perfectly within your right to create some conditions around landscaping, such as street trees, or like the phrase that David just delivered, to enhance the landscaping to make it more residential and less commercial. And I'm not sure how to write the decision right now, because it feels like a little vague, like we've got a lot of different opinions on that. So maybe, I guess I don't really have a question, except to maybe suggest we use deliberation to straighten out that piece. Okay. No questions, though.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the public at this time?
My name is Jim Blair. I live across the street at 27 Washington Street. I'm with the red picket fence you may pass by. Yellow house used to belong to Colonel Whitehorn. And had it since 1992. The feeling that I have is that in terms of landscaping, the addition of trees on that side of the street would be perfectly fine. We have them, they're beginning to fade. The old trees that Colonel Whitehorn put in the 1950s are beginning to fall apart. And so the new trees on the other side of the street would certainly be welcome from my wife and my point of view. And it would make it look more residential, I think. The house next to that structure is a residential house, and then the rest, all the houses up the street are residential houses. Yeah, I've seen the pictures that the proposals for the color scheme, that looks good, and as far as I'm concerned, it looks like an interesting and good project. We live downtown so that we can walk around town, and that's a very useful thing. So I think if you have more people who are on the sidewalk and enjoying Middlebury from a pedestrian point of view, that's all to the good as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
My name is Barbara Flickinger, and I live at 29 Washington Street, so one house up, and we've owned our house since 1966. I grew up there. And I think the idea of adding trees would be nice to make it residential and start that transition, thank you, from, the commercial area to more residential. So I think that's a nice idea, and it sounds as if the historic aspect will make it a more pleasant building, and the parking and the circulation seem to have been well thought out, so I think making it residential, to me, is attractive.
Yeah, I understand it's only going to be egress from the Washington Street, and you can exit only on Budoff Drive, is that right?
Yes, ingress
Yeah.
from Washington,
Yeah, so you come in from Washington Street if you like, or you can come in and go out from Budoff Drive.
Right.
Yes, sir.
That's fine.
Any other questions? Any other questions from the board at this time?
Is there any, heard from your abutting neighbors
No,
about it?
No, I mean, was it you that I heard from, Barbara?
I spoke with someone, was that you?
We
Yeah,
emailed back and forth? Okay, so everyone who I talked to is here.
I'm talking about the Gibson property next door.
That's correct, yes. She passed away,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
So Barbara, are you her daughter?
No,
Oh, okay.
so we live on the other side of the street, 2 houses up.
Okay, well, I apologize, I talked to Mrs. Gibson's daughter as well.
Oh,
Oh, you did? Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
I emailed, sent her the packet and everything, and I haven't heard anything back, so.
But you did send that one to me, too.
Yeah, I guess I've corresponded to more people than I remembered.
Yeah.
It's a good neighborhood.
Yeah.
I take care of it.
Okay, were there any other questions from the board at this time? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
At this time, I move that we consider this application during a deliberative session, particularly in light of the confusion on landscaping.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Moved and second. Is there discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we will be going into deliberative session after the second case.
thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your time.
Yeah.
Someone did.
Yeah, yes, David.
You second it?
Anything on the motion?
Next item on the business agenda is an application by Champlain Valley Dispensary, Inc. for conditional use approval to convert and use an existing professional office for retail dispensary of medical products and related services pursuant to Title 18, Chapter 86, therapeutic use of cannabis. Development Review Board approval for this project is required pursuant to Section 540. Property is located at 1641 Route 7 South in the protected highway district, parcel number 08113. The following is the DRB oath for applicants, interested persons, and those who wish to participate in this hearing. Do you affirm that the evidence and information you are giving in this proceeding is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Anyone else going to participate? At this time, I would ask members of the board if any member has a conflict of interest regarding this application. Donald is excusing himself. At this time, does any member wish to disclose any ex parte conversations concerning this case? Hearing none. Okay, would you like to briefly describe your project?
Hello, my name is Shane Lynn. I'm the Executive Director of Champlain Valley Dispensary. The project is based there on Route 7 at 1641. It is currently a doctor's office, and we're looking to convert it to a medical marijuana dispensary. So it will be a retail location by appointment only. And we'd also then like to potentially have the front space be Cirrus Natural Remedies, which would be to sell CBD products. And so there would be kind of two existing uses, both in the retail sector.
Okay. Are you proposing any site plan changes to the project?
I think what we had outlined between the last meeting I was here and now was potentially putting up an outdoor lighting. There's a telephone pole in the back that we would attach a light to help for lighting. Then a sign would be placed on the front of the building. At this point, we haven't decided about any other signage. We thought we'd keep it simple, start slowly, and then if there were to be additional signage, that we'd come back to the board here and ask for approval. And I think I did send in a few documents showing where we would put the sign on the building, up to code that Middlebury has. And I believe that was it. Let me look at my notes. We also designated parking spaces, actually, as well, on the lot for both. I'll just get up and show. This would be staff and
Could you
patient.
stand back?
Yep, right there.
Yeah.
So this would be staff and patient parking in here, and this again would be more patient parking. And that is the allotted space roughly. You know, these are guidelines, but back to, I think I put the dimensions of each parking spot in. We would designate each parking spot with either a concrete or wood marker, I guess. I'm forgetting the technical term for that, but so each of those would be designated spots for parking. And the telephone pole is right there. You can see the shadow. We would put an outdoor light on there, and then back to the security system. Cameras would be attached to the outside of the building in certain areas. But all the egress in the building is you know, is already present. We don't need to make any adjustments on that. And just for the signage, I think there's another picture I sent in, but signage would go right there on the building at this point. And that's not to scale, so whatever the code is, we'll make sure that it abides by that.
Okay. Other questions from the board at this time?
I have one.
Ann?
In your application, you talk about the starting hours for
Yep.
this operation. Do you have an idea of what the maximum hours would be?
It's a good question. I would assume probably, you know, our goal would be to be open probably 5 to 6 days a week, potentially 7 days a week, similar to a pharmacy, giving people the most convenience. And then the hours, I would say that we'd probably want 1 or 2 days that are early morning hours to allow people to visit us before their work may start. So that could be a 9 a.m. or an 8 a.m. opening. And then on the back end of the day, I'd say we probably would go into the 6 or 7 o'clock range as well, to give people that convenience of coming to visit us after work.
I'd like to put a finer point on the question.
Yeah.
If our approval, if we gave it, had a set of hours on it as a condition that you might have to live with for a year or two or come back to us to change, would what you just said, 9 to 7 or something like that, be acceptable to
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
Okay. I have another question if
Go
it's
ahead.
okay. The Cirrus business that
Yeah.
you're proposing here, Am I right that I saw another Ceres business on, I think it's Bank Street in Burlington?
College Street, we just opened
College
one
Street.
on College Street in December. We
Yeah,
opened.
right by Stephen and Burns.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. For those who haven't seen it, or well, I guess for me, could you describe the sort of any key differences between what's going to happen here and what happens in that facility, and the look is, I mean.
Yeah, well,
It's not a house.
it's completely, yes, it's completely different. This is where we're, back to the aesthetics here, that we are going into a house, and we're not planning much renovation besides, wall color, painting, maybe rug, and then we will be bringing in certain, I guess, displays. But it really won't be anything like the space up in College Street. That was, if you saw our first iteration of Cirrus that started on Steel Street in Burlington,
Right.
that was roughly like 600 square feet, and kind of,
I
very.
guess, I know it's spatially not going to be
Yeah.
similar materially, but I was wondering about use, because this is a more interior-focused site anyway, unless you're a customer, you don't really get inside the space. But in terms of the use of the space on the Cirrus side, is it comparable? Is it it's much smaller?
Oh, it's dramatically smaller. I mean, I think we're talking 400 square feet here at most, maybe not even, whereas up in the Burlington space, we're talking almost 1,800 square feet,
Yeah.
maybe 2,000. So we're gonna, this is really a small footprint, and, I think at Cirrus at this point, we carry between 50 to 60 different brands of products that have CBD, with about 25 of them being Vermont-made products. I would imagine that our selection down here would be much smaller. And for us, it's an introduction to CBD products, and most likely part of the conversation is going to be, if you'd like more selection, visit us up in Burlington. And so this is really a part of being a part of the community, having a door that's open so people can ask questions of us, and then possibly, introducing them to CBD products. And we have a Cirrus down in Brattleboro as well. It's currently probably about 350 square feet. We have some shelving. The products are nicely spaced on the shelving. We have a sales associate in the room, and sitting at a desk. We probably see 1 or 2 people max at a time. There's really never more than 2 or 3 people. There's never more really than 2 people in the room at a time.
Well, I don't want to derail the conversation. I'm sure others have questions. I just happened to walk by. I was curious.
Yep.
Thank you.
Has there been an advertisement on TV recently about the Cirrus?
Not on TV, unless it was a news piece. We did have some interviews that we performed lately. We ran an ad potentially in 7 days. We just actually had a talk. We had a doctor come up from Boston to give a presentation about genetics of hemp and cannabis plants, and so we did advertise that, but no TV.
Nothing on TV.
No.
Is there any similar business around that you know of?
Green State Gardener is on Pine Street in Burlington, and they also do sell CBD products, and they also sell hydroponic equipment.
Okay, maybe that's what I was thinking, but
could-
it was there, I watched it, and I
Yep,
was.
it could very well be them. So,
Okay.
and I know they
don't
have
remember who was
radio
doing it, but
radio ads as well. So.
I just saw it on TV.
Okay.
So they were going ahead. Different aromatherapies, and there was the CBD mentioned, they sell that and whatever, so I didn't know if your business was related to that.
It's not us. There's also a place in Montpelier at this point that sells CBD. I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's right on State Street. And so it's starting to gain some momentum here, and there are other, we have competitors.
Yeah, okay.
So,
I have a point I'd like to raise. Obviously, the access to Route 7 there is approved by the state, or it wouldn't be there. But if this is something the board or staff can consider, it occurred to me that people turning left out of that access onto Route 7 would be competing in a way with all the people who are going to be turning left out of Foot Street as a result of either Tractor Supply or coming out of the back of the Ceres Medical Center onto Foot Street. And maybe the proximity is something I don't know if we have the power to look at that, but it struck me as a potential problem.
So,
And maybe if the exit there was only a right turn, and anyone wanting to go south on Route 7 would have to exit on Foot Street to the stop sign.
Yep.
I don't know if we,
well, that's, I think we can talk about that.
yeah.
Yeah, just in relation to what Ann's comment is here, I know there's been several times that I've been down Foot Street at that stop sign and trying to go south, and sometimes it takes forever to make that left-hand turn there. So that being said, with egress only going north, then it would make life easier probably for a lot of people, not only there, but on Foot Street as well.
I think
Coming
it,
off Foot
I
Street.
think it would, because that intersection is quite difficult for left turns. And if you have to watch out for other people turning left to the north of you as well, that's an added risk. And I don't really see it impacting your business any.
I'd probably need to see the map if, can we see the lot again?
Well, if you go out of the driveway to Route 7, I think the photograph is enough.
I think maybe he wants the context. I mean,
Yeah, exactly, yeah, oh, that's fine, if I can just see the road, I guess.
yeah, so Foot Street's here.
Yeah,
and
gotcha.
It comes out, you know, and
And
then.
then at the corner, at that corner, there's a stop sign.
Okay, yes, onto 7.
Yes.
Right by the florist shop there.
And so you wouldn't want people to take a left?
Out of your business, or you could,
We'd encourage them to go to the
You're
stop sign
saying,
to get.
can you make this an in only and make all the parking lot people go out this way?
Or it could be
Or-
an out if they're
North turn.
turning right.
I'm sorry, I thought I was helping. I guess that's not
Yeah.
what you're saying.
No,
I mean-
well, everybody that wanted to go south would have to go out there, but if they want to go north, they can make a right-hand turn out of the Route 7 driveway.
It's the little right turn only sign that every Burger King in America has on it, that's in the.
yeah,
it's in
right turn
corner
only,
location.
you
And
would have to put
That's
up,
exactly
but-
why they do it, is if it's less than 200 feet from a major intersection, they want you, for a left hand, to go out to the major intersection, and for a right hand, you can go out.
Right.
It does make sense from a speed differential, crash safety point of view. But Chief Hanley looked at this, right? I mean, did that come as a comment from police, or?
That did not come as a comment from him, no.
Gary,
Would think the state, they okayed those 2 entries onto 7.
Yeah, there's no increase, there's no proposed, am I right that there's no proposed increase in daily traffic versus the existing use there? This is an improvement to safety, not based on increased density, but
yeah, I've read
Well,
that.
there is going to be a lot more traffic with these 2 new businesses.
I'm not objecting to it. I think that
Yeah.
makes sense to come out on Foot Street if they're gonna go south.
so to just clarify, the proposal is to allow two-way traffic to allow inbound from either direction, and to simply regulate the outbound traffic to the 7 side with a no right turn.
no left turn.
Correct.
Looking at it
I'm
from
not
this
a
side.
traffic expert, but I think some of that confusion, even with signage, is potential.
Well, there'll be the inevitable person who goes the wrong way.
Completely,
But,
exactly, so.
If we get the majority of them to exit on Foot Street and then go south, that would be an improvement from the situation that could arise.
And if they do get T-boned, they come back to you and you say, I said right turn only.
I'm happy to, could we start potentially, if there starts to be a lot of traffic and confusion, then we come back and revisit that? I'm just back to, I think, I'm thinking of our patients and them coming in and out, and the regulations in place. And it's kind of one more thing, a part of our conversation that we're having with them. We're gonna have, say, when you can't exit on Route 7, you have to exit this way. You're gonna take another, it just adds to the amount of information we're providing. On the second and third times, yeah, they'll understand it. And I'd maybe ask to see how I'm really not sure how much traffic we're gonna have for 6-8 months, and if it does become an issue, I'm happy to address it even without coming here and saying, oh, they were right, we need to do this.
You could have a sign in the parking lot maybe that, 'cause since everyone's parking facing all in the same direction, what if you had a sign in the parking lot that said exit on Foot Street? Or like a little arrow
There are
sign.
places here that do that now.
And then if somebody doesn't happen to obey that sign, given the number of trips per day that he's generating, then it's not the end of the world. They won't get up to Route 7 and then feel like, oh no, I can't go the way I want to go now and have to turn around and go back in, that's more dangerous than not.
Yeah,
Potential compromise.
okay. Other questions from the board? I just want to make something clear for us, that this application, hey, yeah, I will in a minute. I have another question. When you're proposing therapeutic use of cannabis, now, is that only therapeutic use of, this permit will be for only therapeutic use of cannabis?
Correct.
So that with the new laws that go into Vermont, starting today or whenever they start, for this, for the use or sale possibly, that this permit does not include anything along those lines?
Yeah, currently the law is for home grow and doesn't permit any sale
Right.
or
But
purchase of
the
cannabis.
permit, what we're talking about is for medical use only at this point.
Yes,
And anything else would have to come back to this board.
yes.
Since you were here last time, has anything changed from the evidence you gave us then? Because we were quite thorough in discussing the project.
Yeah.
And so, and that's why we're not putting it all on the record tonight.
No, I just the timeline of things. I mean, that's just, there's, I don't know, the sense of, I don't want to say urgency, but a thought process that we need to move forward, we need to move forward on this project on our end.
But in terms of the building and the things that you're actually here before the board that we can control is not.
No, it's all the same, and it's more about our interior, our thinking on, okay, how are we going to renovate the space in the inside? It's minimal renovations. We're talking about, paint colors, rugs. We really are pressed to open on different levels, different reasons for that, and how do we make a welcoming space, and yet, back to David's comments about College Street, Cirrus, it's really going to be two different things, and this is, really a small footprint for us to be a part of your community down here, and we want to be good neighbors.
The other thing is, are you proposing any landscaping improvements?
At this time, no, we're not, and that's where I would come back if we do change it, and I think it's really about, if this is going to be a long-term home for us, what are the improvements that we would like to make, and that's how I kind of feel with the traffic of, hey, if this is really, we're starting to build our patient base here, and this is really becoming a place that people visit regularly, and where we're seeing difficulties, with people coming in and out, and we need to clarify all that. We need to put signage up in the parking lot, that we need to make those investments. And I guess what I'm saying is, I'm just not sure how busy we're going to be, and that's why we have limited hours. And it usually does take, from my experience in Brattleboro, it really does take some time to build the community and let people know that we're here. Even from the fact that when a person says, oh, I want to use cannabis, see their doctor, it takes 3 months then, to have that relationship, send the paperwork in, another 30 days. So it really can take, almost half a year for someone by the time they say they want to do this, sign up to come visit us. And so I think, as a business person, we're trying to measure, I'm trying to measure, you know, how much of investment do we put into this location and yet make it, you know, obviously easy to spot, convenient, a good experience as a person coming into our establishment.
Jen?
So I'm hearing this theme of, you know, I would, but I don't know how it's gonna work out. You know, maybe in the future I can do it. So does that mean we should give him a temporary approval?
I,
Because otherwise we don't have a mechanism for getting you back in front of us.
Well, I'm hesitant on the temporary for that. That means that we have that with, on a business level of agreements, you know, hey, something's temporary, how much do we put in of ourselves? I mean, I'd like to be able to commit to this, and I think the temporary part is when does it start to pick up? And then back to me wanting to be here in Middlebury and working with all of you, that's I don't think I'm gonna be moving forward without checking in, like signage, you know? If we start to hear from patients, oh, it's really hard to spot, you know, I couldn't recognize it.
I don't think you understand what I'm saying about our process.
Okay.
Yeah, like if we need landscaping and we need that traffic figured out, we need it figured out on the front end, because we have no mechanism for getting you back in front of the board to require that you change that site plan later on. So it's not like it's just a casual, I'm checking in to like, see if you like, you know, how things are going thing. It's not like that with our approvals. So if
Well,
we're not
but
gonna
I'm
straighten
saying-
it all out in the front end, then we do a temporary approval and have you back in 3 years or a year or something like that.
Well, I guess I was saying on my end, it is that way for us in the sense of wanting to make sure that this establishment is fitting, and if there are people expressing things to the board that this isn't working, I'm having difficulty accessing, we're gonna wanna change that, because that's important for our business. And to make that, again, back to that experience and being a part of this community. And I guess I maybe, back to trying to pioneer this, we have to play, you know, directly and work directly with folks, and what we say is what we do. There's no way around that for us.
so this is another matter for deliberative session in terms of what,
Yep.
if any, conditions.
Yep, okay. Any other questions from the board at this point? Are there any questions from the public at this point? Comments, concerns?
I have a couple, but one of the things that bothers me is this is the third marijuana bill,
Could you introduce yourself, sir?
and
Your name, sir?
it's currently,
Don?
Don.
yeah,
Your name, please.
Don Keeler.
Thank you.
All the way through this bill that speaks to people the age of 21 years of age. I don't support marijuana use, only because I took an oath of office to hold the Constitution of the state of Vermont, Constitution of the United States of America, which is still, the federal government still has declared that marijuana is not a legal product at this time. I guess my concern is, one of the concerns is why would you let 18-year-old people in your store? I mean, you can't live by cigarettes unless you're 21. Why would you want 18-years-old in a cannabis store?
The dispensary,
Yeah,
we allow people under 18 if they have a caregiver with them that is over 21.
but
And
that's a licensed caregiver.
yep.
But what if some high school kids just decide to stop in and see what's going on in your store?
They won't be allowed into the portion that is selling cannabis. That won't happen. They won't be allowed entry into that area. You need to have ID cards to come into that area.
And people do crazy things with hemp oil these days. Probably not lawfully, but there's statistics out there. Again, good luck in your venture, but the second thing is if we're now legalizing marijuana, everybody can grow 2 adult plants and 2 juvenile plants in their house. Why would they come to your store to buy dope?
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, the governor signed the bill today, so people pretty much will start growing dope tomorrow.
And it will probably adversely affect our business.
It probably will.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also, part of the bill, there was some legislation that was defeated where it tried to give the towns the authority to regulate marijuana through zoning, marijuana sales in their community. That probably may surface again, but,
Well, for clarity, this is why I'm here. I mean, back to, each town does have the authority for zoning.
this speaks specifically to cannabis, to regulate cannabis stores in a community.
Kevin has already established with the applicant that the CBD products in the store will be completely separate from the other portion, and also that if the sale of marijuana products other than medical and CBD becomes lawful at some point, this application, he has to come back if he wants to go into that business. It only covers the things that are currently not illegal under federal law on one side and the medical stuff on the other side, right? That's what we're approving.
Medical cannabis, yes.
Our preliminary order is even more specific than that on the left, on the one side of the store, which says specifically non-toxic, not intoxicating products,
Right.
Yes.
to be very clear about it.
Other questions or comments from the public?
I'm just gonna make a comment on the marijuana bill.
Yes.
Rand study, 2015, there was 80,000 users of marijuana in Vermont on a regular basis. In 2015. That's 25% of your adult population in Vermont.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none. Any more questions from the board or staff at this point? Hearing none. Is there a motion?
Move to close the hearing and consider the ruling and potential conditions in deliberative session.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Gary. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Make a motion to go into deliberative session?
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One abstention. Okay, Kathy, we're in deliberative session.
Oopsie.
We're on?
Yeah. Oh, hold it, are we on? Hold it. Okay.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to come out of deliberative session?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion on the application of Off the Hook?
I move that the Middlebury Development Review Board, having reviewed the application and exhibits submitted, and having heard the duly considered, and have heard the duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing of January 22nd, 2018, approve this request by Off the Hook LLC for a multifamily dwelling renovation rehabilitation of 8 multifamily residential units located at 24 Washington Street, parcel number 25.037.000.
Second.
Okay, do we want to add anything contingent on our
With conditions.
conditions? No.
Nope, we've got them all, I've got them all.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 0. Okay. The application by Champlain Valley Dispensary. Is there a motion?
I can't talk, I'm not doing that.
Can you read it? I move that the Middlebury Development Review Board, having reviewed the application submitted and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing of January 22nd, 2018, approve this conditional use request for a change of use to retail stores, services to operate both a medical marijuana dispensary and natural remedies retail store in the building owned by Stepping Stones Investments LLC at 1641 Route 7 South.
Second?
Okay.
Subject to the
I have
conditions.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. I have a question on that. It says the building owned by Stepping. Oh, okay, all right, no, I'm good.
And I think it's Stepping Stone Investment.
Stepping Stone, yeah,
Yeah.
investments.
Stepping, okay. Yes, contingent on the conditions. Any comments on the motion?
Just to be clear that in deliberative session, we determined some conditions which will be made clear to the applicant by staff and
Correct.
by the chairperson in the written decision.
Correct.
Anything else on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Did we have a second?
Yes.
Okay, good. Aye.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item on the agenda, other business.
What's coming?
Jen, for your information, I've already warned Rick that I won't be here for either meeting in March, if we have them.
Middlebury College is probably, Middlebury College is ready for February 12th, and I don't know anything else beyond that.
Okay.
What are they doing?
They're constructing a new building.
Oh,
Yep,
I won't be here the 12th.
okay.
Where's the new building?
Oh, it's gonna be, at the end of Shannon Street, there's a parking lot. I'm not remembering the name of the hall that it's next to, but there's a big parking lot there, and the tennis courts are nearby it.
Yes.
And so it's gonna be in that parking lot, next to an existing, academic building.
At Johnson Hall.
Johnson Hall, that's the one, yep. So it's gonna be right next to Johnson Hall.
It's a what? Right next?
Right next to Johnson Hall, yep, right on the edge of a slope, it slopes
Yes.
down pretty
Yeah, I
steeply
walked there.
behind it, just a, sort of a steel box with a shed roof, and they've got some windows, and it's a swing building, so they're gonna be moving, people in there while they're renovating each of the buildings on the quad. So,
And then they'll just use it for,
yeah, then they might take it down,
oh, maybe dig it out.
yeah,
Well, we'll find out.
yeah, right. And then you would also have to look at their master plan at that meeting too, so that's a big task for you guys. Kevin, you'll have to look at the master plan at that meeting too. Are you gonna be there for that one, you think? in
Yes,
February?
I'll
Okay,
be
good.
in February.
That'll require some leadership to get through that, because they've redone their big Middlebury College master plan again, so.
is that
Is that
something,
part- Is that part of that application?
Yep, because this building will be a PUD amendment, and every time you look at a PUD, you look at the revised master plan.
Okay.
We can't do those separately?
Um, You could review them at separate hearings. We were going to
I
have
mean,
it.
that's a big deal, the master plan.
Mhm.
Are there a lot of changes?
It's an update, kind of like our town
Yeah.
plan was.
Okay.
Well, maybe not that bad.
can I
Just an-
get a copy of that ahead of time? Because I haven't ever looked at that.
Yeah, I still have hard copies from their DAC meeting last week.
Okay.
So the DAC has already looked at this building, and they've got some recommendations for you, and I've
Is it-
got hard copies of the
I'll
master
pick
plan.
one up this week then.
Yeah, I might be
Is
by.
that the only agenda item for that meeting?
Yep,
So do we have the new master plan?
I have hard copies. If you're around this week, I can give it to you.
I want to be around.
Okay.
Is there anybody up for renewal on the board this
Oh,
year?
good question. I haven't looked. I haven't been plotting.
I think
Gosh, when is he up?
I can't remember.
I think
I don't know if you and I thought that was 2 years ago.
I can check that and email you.
So we can check and find my status.
Yeah.
Anything else on other business? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried, meeting is adjourned. We're all done, Kathy.